Inspired by a conversation we had this morning where Mississippi State has a pretty brutal stretch of a bad scheduling break when you consider where the games are played and who they're played against. And that's going to South Carolina, going to Fayetteville, having Alabama and LSU. Those 4 games in a 5-game stretch. They get a break with Western Michigan, and I believe they're buying there as well. But still, that stretch of games is brutal because it's the West champion coming to your place and Alabama coming to your place, and then you have to go to the I was about to say Cracker Jack box, the firecracker box, if that's an expression, in Columbia, South Carolina. You know the fans are that's a really tough place to play football, and people are really high on them. And Fayetteville is always tough. So then I expanded that search and looked at the rest of the SEC. We can save Georgia. Their schedule doesn't have a single difficult stretch in it. But looking at the rest of the league's most difficult stretches and who got the worst break in the league with their schedule and who got the best break, spoiler, it's Georgia. But the other 13, who has the worst, who has the best. And I kind of picked one stretch for each team in the league.
So for Georgia, who you were talking about, you think their most difficult stretch is late October, early November when they play Florida, Missouri, Ole Miss, and they go to Tennessee?
Yeah, I guess. I guess that's the most difficult stretch of consecutive games is. Again, it's not a very difficult schedule for them.
Hey, Dad, what about for Mississippi State? When you look at Mississippi State's schedule, what do you think is the most difficult 4-game stretch for the Bulldogs?
Obviously, the one that Borky is bringing up, because it has Western Michigan in there, kind of dilutes the water a little bit for them. So I don't know if that's it. Although obviously, LSU and Alabama in any stretch is probably going to be in there. But then your next 4 after that are at Auburn, Kentucky at home, at Arkansas, at Auburn, Kentucky at home, and then at College Station for Texas A&M. So that's 3 out of 4 on the road there. I think it's funny that State only plays 4 road games this year, and yet they still had a 3 out of 4 on the road stretch. That's probably it for me. State was 2-1 in that stretch 2 seasons ago when they played those games on the road. Actually, I guess you could say 3-1 because they beat Kentucky at home. But anytime you got to go on the road in the SEC and you got to do it 3 out of 4 weeks, that's a difficult stretch.
Yeah, I mean that's Jordan Hare, and look, make your jokes about Hugh Freeze. I do all the time, but he can coach teams up and win ball games. He can certainly do that. The aforementioned Fayetteville is a tough place to play, and College Station, albeit less intimidating than other 100,000 seat stadiums, is still 100,000 people.
It's still on the road. It's still on the road. So, like I said, anytime you're on the road, that's going to be the stretch that you have to circle. And we'll see how it goes for State this year.
So, at Arkansas, at Auburn, Kentucky, at Texas A&M.
Yeah, for me, yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to say 3-game stretch, you probably
about to just say that, yeah.
Yeah, LSU,
if you said 3-game stretch, I would go
South Carolina on the road. But if you're looking for a 4-game stretch, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter. You can say just stretch of games. I think the most difficult window is that 3-week window for Mississippi State where they host LSU, go to South Carolina, and host Alabama. But if you're looking for 4 specifically, 3 out of 4 on the road, that's hard.
You could go back
hard in the SEC.
Go back another week with that LSU thing and go to say they got to play Arizona at home. Arizona's probably going to be improved again this year, so we'll see.
For Ole Miss, it's got to be right in the middle, right? I mean, you first 3 games, Ole Miss should win. Will they? Oh, they got to go play them. They got to go play well. All of those things. You get Mercer. That's kind of a layup in week 1. Tulane, I think, will look different than they looked a year ago. But Michael Pratt is back at quarterback in New Orleans. And that'll be I'm actually really interested to see what that environment is going to look like. Yeoman Stadium is 30,000 seats. So there's a limit to how intimidating 30,000 can be. And Ole Miss fans have traditionally traveled quite well to New Orleans, but it's going to be harder for Ole Miss fans to get tickets for this game in a small stadium than it is against a bad Tulane team in the Superdome. This is going to be game 2 coming off a season in which they won at the Cotton Bowl. I mean, I fully expect it to be sold out. So, but still,
yeah,
that's a game that Ole Miss should win. Will they? We'll have to wait and see. They should beat Georgia Tech at home. If that happens, you get off to a 3-0 start. And then you go through the stretch of Alabama on the road, LSU at home, certainly a different place on the schedule for Ole Miss, playing LSU on September 30th? By the way, Ole Miss got 3,000 tickets to Tulane.
Ooh. The rest of them are going to be expensive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like those will be cheap. I mean, even if you order them through the school,
yeah.
you have the ability to buy them through the school. But, yeah, you're going to have to go to the secondary market. We can take a peek and see what they look like on the secondary market. But my guess is there's some Tulane fans who will pay for their season tickets by selling that game.
I listened to a New Orleans-based podcast. A couple of guys. One mentioned that he wants to buy Tulane season tickets just to sell them to what he described as dumb, rich Ole Miss fans. So, but yeah, there are going to be people that do that.
Yeah, so, I mean, Ole Miss's ticket allotment is 3,000. Would you guess that when it's all said and done, there's somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 Ole Miss fans that are there?
Wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, 100%.
And tens of thousands more just hanging out in the city because,
Yeah. So after that stretch, at Alabama, LSU, Arkansas, an open date, and then a road trip to Auburn.
It's tough.
I mean, that's the 4-game stretch for Ole Miss that stands out on the schedule where you're like, whew, what does it look like going? So if you give Ole Miss a 3-0 start, then you look at that next 4-game stretch and you say, okay, is there a way to win 2 of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like team, coaches, whatever, they all want to win all of them. But if you're playing the little mark, you're marking W's and L's on the schedule in March, looking ahead to the football season, you're thinking, okay, if you go 2-2 in that window, then you are 5-2 after 7 games. You got Vanderbilt. It's a game you expect to win. That's 6. A&M at home. Frankly, a game you expect to win. I think Texas A&M is going to take a step forward this year. However, have you seen that there's already Jimbo's already kind of stepped on it just a touch when asked about Bobby Petrino calling plays this year. He was like, we're just going to figure that out. And then he clarified. He's like, yeah, we believe in his system, and he's going to be our primary play caller. There's a chance for that to blow up spectacularly. Yeah. They're talented. It's a really talented roster.
Especially when the worst case scenario for Jimbo Fisher is getting written a $70 million check when this season ends.
Yeah.
Excuse me, what is it? Is it 66? I think it's less than 70. But yeah, that's the worst thing that's going to happen to him this year.
But I mean, based on recent history, if you're going and picking games, you say, sure, Ole Miss can beat Texas A&M at home. Georgia's a game that you're not predicting to win. Right? You're just not. So A&M would be 7-2. A loss to Georgia would be 7-3. ULM is 8-3. And then the Egg Bowl, if it plays out this way, the Egg Bowl is the difference in an 8-win season and a 9-win season.
Of those,
and I guess just as a final note here, when you are paying your head football coach $9 million, I don't think expecting 9 wins is unreasonable. I know what Ole Miss has done traditionally. Ole Miss has never paid a football coach $9 million before. We've never done it. Not even close. If you're paying $9 million, I mean, that's $1 million a win. And that's 5-3 in the league. I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. Can Ole Miss pull that off on the field? Tons of questions. And the most difficult stretch of games for Florida, it really comes at the end of the year. And it's a 5-game stretch for Florida. After their open date on October. Yeah, I would say after their open date on October 21st, they go cocktail party against Georgia, Arkansas at home, at LSU, at Missouri, Florida State at home.
Oof. I think it could be a career-defining stretch for Billy Napier.
Yeah, it could. He got the huge win at home against Utah last year.
Yeah.
But he's got to open the season.
He's like 4-1 in that stretch. Good luck.
Say he needs to go 4-1 in that stretch?
Yeah. I mean, Florida's not going to tolerate 7-5. I mean, if he loses 3 games there, he's probably going to lose to Tennessee. Who's their other West? Oh, no, you listed both the West teams. I think they're going to lose to Utah on the road.
Okay.
I mean, they're in trouble.
So they beat McNeese, beat Charlotte. Are they going to win at Kentucky?
They didn't last time they were up there. I don't know.
They going to beat Vanderbilt?
I don't know. Should at home.
Going to win at South Carolina?
I would say no.
Going to beat Arkansas at home?
It's a toss-up for me.
LSU Florida always gets weird, but that game is at LSU on November 11th.
Yeah, LSU will win that game.
And Missouri seems to play better at the end of the year. Maybe it's because it's so cold. I don't know if Florida can handle the cold weather in Columbia.
They won at Florida last year, right? Didn't Missouri?
I believe so. Is there a Darth Vader costume involved? No, that was
2 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. When Mullen was still there.
Yeah. What about Tennessee? Tennessee's schedule sets up pretty well for them. Their first 5, so Virginia and Nashville to start the year, then Austin Peay, then they go to Florida, then UTSA, then South Carolina. That's not an easy first 5 games, but that's a first 5 that Tennessee could certainly navigate to a 5-0 start.
Yeah.
Then an open date before they host A&M. They got to go to Tuscaloosa this year. Got to go to Lexington. They get UConn at home in November. Got to go to Missouri, Georgia at home, and then close it out with Vanderbilt at home.
So not really a tough 4-game stretch, but that A&M, Alabama, Kentucky is probably it.
I know when we start stretching this out to 6 games, you're like, okay, it's half the season.
Yeah.
But listen to this 6-game window for Arkansas. BYU at home, at LSU, Texas A&M in Arlington, at Ole Miss, at Alabama, Mississippi State, and Fayetteville. Whew.
That's very tough.
Ooh.
That's very tough.
Now, Arkansas starts the year with Western Carolina and Kent State, so it should be a good start to the season. They beat BYU in Provo last year, so maybe you give them a 3-0 start. Then it's Baton Rouge, Arlington, Texas, Oxford, Tuscaloosa, back home to Fayetteville for Mississippi State.
Is this the last year of Arlington, Texas? I thought last year was the last year of that.
I don't know, man. Feels like that's never going to end. Wasn't it a 10-year contract?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Auburn stretch of at A&M, Georgia at home, open date at LSU, Ole Miss at home.
The SEC, man. I mean, there's no getting away from this stuff.
Yeah. For A&M, I guess I would go Auburn because that's a weird series.
It is, yeah.
And then Arkansas, and then Alabama, and then at Tennessee. I think that's the 4-game window I would pick out for Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
I think. So, is there anybody else of note? Like, I mean, I kind of cherry-pick teams there.
No, I mean, that's definitely it for A&M. For the rest of the conference?
No. Yeah, I was just saying kind of for the conference as a whole. How about the East? Who's got it most difficult in terms of their Western Division opponents? Florida plays Arkansas and LSU.
That's on LSU.
Georgia's got Ole Miss and Auburn.
Tennessee has
Kentucky.
A&M and Alabama.
Yeah. Missouri's got LSU and Arkansas. Kentucky has Mississippi State and Alabama. Vandy's got Florida and Georgia.
That might be it, just because Kentucky has not won in Starkville since
Moby Dick was a minnow.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I think it was 2008.
Yeah. And then in terms of the hardest East draw, Auburn gets a little bit of a break because they've got Vanderbilt in addition to Georgia this year. Alabama gets Tennessee like they do every year in Kentucky.
Yeah.
For Arkansas, it's Missouri. That's their permanent, and Florida. For Auburn, it's Vandy and who? Vandy and Georgia. Okay, we said that a second ago. Yeah.
LSU has Florida and Missouri too. That's an interesting coincidence for them in Arkansas.
Yeah. For Mississippi State, Kentucky, and who? South Carolina.
South Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah. For Ole Miss, it's Vanderbilt and Georgia, and for Texas A&M, Tennessee, and
it's hard to believe you wouldn't pick somebody who has Georgia, but I mean, in terms of two tough games, you would say, because I mean, Ole Miss has Georgia, but they have Vanderbilt. Auburn has Georgia, but they have Vanderbilt. A&M with Tennessee and South Carolina is probably the toughest East draw.
Yeah. You can join us on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Again, 601-879-4395. JP and Carton says, fun conversation today on football schedules. I would like to drop in the scheduling stuff. We'll do this. I'm sure we'll do it again between now and September. A lot of different ways to look at it. Kevin says, heck, when State rolls into Fayetteville, the Hogs may be smoked and pulled pork. Well, that's what you hope if you're a Mississippi State fan. Hope that they're on life support
at that point. Yeah.
Is Florida on the verge of becoming what Tennessee was?
I mean, can the East support 3 10-win teams is basically what you're asking, because Georgia and Tennessee are kind of there right now. Can Florida get there? That's tough.
Yeah. Most Ole Miss fans just assume it's in the Dome and have not thought about it. Well, we're telling you it's not. It is at Ullman Stadium in Uptown. Cool setting.
State is there, I think, in 25, I think. I could be wrong.
Cody and Tupelo, schedule looks way too tough for Ole Miss or State to win over 8 games. Looks more like they would both likely be 7-5 to 8-4 at best.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think State's such a veteran team. They bring back so much production. I think not having Mike Leach is sort of tainted everybody's view on that. Because they don't know what to make of Arnett, and that's fine. And then with Ole Miss, I mean, if they're just better defensively, they're going to score points with Dart and Judkins. So it's just are they better defensively?
Assuming Jackson Dart is your starting quarterback.
I'm making that assumption.
Even with Georgia being on Ole Miss's schedule, I feel like the road-home discrepancies leads to Ole Miss's schedule being easier than State's.
That's weird, because like I said, State has 8 home games.
Yeah.
But Alabama and LSU are 2 of them.
That hurts it.